What's up, everybody? It's Ash doing another vid here about Joe Biden deep dig. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off here with the fact that Joe Biden is a plagiarist, and that's been proven more than one time. The first time that Joe ran in '87, he was accused of plagiarizing a speech from other people. And as you can see here in this Breitbart piece from 2008, Biden's speech honoring foreign leader plagiarized. During his final year in the Senate, Biden inserted a speech into the congressional record praising a foreign dignitary with language that appears to have been plagiarized in part from a well-known national magazine. And you can go on to read this article by Harris Alec, July 17th, 2020. Some more stuff about Biden here. If you weren't aware, Joe has a brother, and his brother became part of a company called Hillstone, and that company was granted a contract in Iraq to build a certain amount of housing units. And that was a $1.5 billion contract, by the way. And so here's another example of, I believe his name is James Biden, Joe Biden's brother, profiting off of his name. James Biden reportedly convinced AmeriCorps that he could use his political clout to deliver a significant influx of cash in the form of an investment from the Middle East, and even convinced the company to take on financial burdens, including a six-figure loan to James that he has yet to repay. There's now a lawsuit. James Biden, AmeriCorps, and AmeriCorps founder Grant White face a lawsuit from medical companies in Tennessee federal court accusing them of fraud over alleged promises made. Biden and the other defendants have denied any wrongdoing, but the plaintiffs last month reportedly said in a court filing that they are willing to drop their claims against White, who had provided exculpatory evidence as well as information that further implicated Biden and others. And this company later went into bankruptcy. So here's another example. It's like sort of what the mob used to do. Go into a company that's in trouble, you pump it up, you make some cash, and then you suck it dry, and you usually would burn it down for the insurance cash. That was the old scam. I'm not saying that's what they did, but a lot of these companies that they were involved in are not doing so well after they leave later on. So here's a New York Post article from January 18th, 2020 by Peter Schweitzer, who will watch a video later, who has a really great book out about corruption. How 5 members of Joe Biden's family got rich through his connections. So it's not just Hunter, it's his brother James, who's much older and has been in this business for a long time. He's a lawyer, and he's been involved with Joe for a very long time in different business ventures. And Schweitzer's book, Profiles in Corruption, is Abuse of Power by America's Progressive Elite. It's just one great example, one great book about how that explores this. And there's others in his family. It's not just these 2 people. His son Hunter, son-in-law Howard, brother James, and Frank and sister Valerie. So there's other people here that are involved. And Biden's, main thing has always been he never spoke with Hunter or anything about this. He didn't know anything about it. And I'm starting to see that that might not be the case. And James had been involved with Joe's, his whole life. He was the person that was the finance chair of Joe's 1972 Senate campaign. They've always been close, usually, and, he's brought his brother all over the world on different ventures and trips that he's been on. He's been in the White House, state dinners, Pope Francis visit, and now we get into the Hillstone International Company, which he became a part of later, Joe's brother. And they were given a large contract. Let's read this paragraph here. Consider the case of Hillstone International, a subsidiary of the huge construction management firm Hill International. The president of Hillstone International was Kevin Justice, who grew up in Delaware and was a longtime Biden family friend. On November 4, 2010, according to White House visitors' logs, Justice visited the White House and met with Biden advisor Michelle Smith in the office of the vice president. Less than 3 weeks later, Hillstone announced that James Biden would be joining the firm as an executive vice president. James appeared to have little or no background in housing construction, but that did not seem to matter to Hillstone. His bio on the company's website noted his 40 years of experience, quote unquote, dealing with principals in business, political, legal, and financial circles across the nation and internationally. So you could see that what Biden did over his time was use different members of his family, got them involved with different companies in different places like Iraq, China, and others, and used them to take assets out through those people. There's another article here from the New York Post. Joe Biden's brother and son have a long history of profiting off of his name, by Ryan Grimm, October 15, 2019. And again, they've been trying to keep this stuff under wraps. The Post has done some great reporting on these, on Biden and his family ties. It's out there to be seen. And you got a guy like Hunter Biden here who has no experience in any of this stuff. He was thrown out of the military for a positive cocaine test and was then just given like a no-show job, basically, which is what they used to do back in the day with organized crime groups. Give you a no-show job, you never show up, and you just get a paycheck every week. You see, Hunter went to law school, got involved with MBNA, had a big job with them for a time. These are all cronies that have helped out his father. See some other articles here. Biden's brother touted Biden Cancer Initiative ties and investment pitch. Politico.com by Ben Schreckinger, September the 26th, 2019. Joe Biden's brother told executives at a healthcare firm that the former vice president's cancer initiative would promote their business, according to a participant in the conversation, who said the promise came as part of a pitch on behalf of potential investors in the firm. The allegation is the latest of many times Biden's relatives have invoked the former vice president and his political clout to further their private business dealings. It is the first that involves the Biden Cancer Initiative, a project Joe Biden made the centerpiece of his post-White House life following the death of his son, Beau. Biden's brother James made the promise to executives at Florida-based Integrate Oral Care during a phone call on or around November 8, 2018. According to Michael Frey, CEO of Diverse Medical Management, a healthcare firm that is suing James Biden. At the time, James Biden's business partners were pursuing a potential investment in Integrate, according to Frey in court records. Frey, who had a business relationship with James Biden and his associates, had introduced the group to Integrate. James Biden told the Integrate executives he would get the Biden Cancer Initiative to promote an oral rinse made by the firm and used by cancer patients. Frey, who said he participated in the call, told Politico he added that James Biden directly invoked the former vice president on the call. Quote, he said his brother would be very excited about this product, unquote, Frey said. A spokesman for James Biden disputed Frey's account. Quote, charges stem from a frivolous lawsuit and are pure fantasy. We are not surprised that such baseless accusations have emerged during the Democratic primaries, said David Fiskus, a spokesman for James Biden and Platinum Global Partners. Quote, Jim Biden has been clear and consistent that he does not and has never discussed his business ventures with his brother. So again, you have these kind of accusations coming up over and over again. This War Room site 2020, quid pro quo Joe, Biden's brother's firm was handled $1.5 billion Iraq contract. And this is another way that they made some cash. You know, we were in Iraq, we destabilized the country over many years, and then as vice president, get a sweet deal like this. Give it to your brother. And it's interesting that the price is $1.5 billion, the same number that they're alleging that Hunter Biden's company came out of China with contracts to handle that amount of money too. Same amount. So here's another article here about the contract. An opinion piece from the Washington Examiner by Joel Girk, Foreign Affairs reporter, October the 22nd, 2012. Mitt Romney has criticized President Obama for giving green energy subsidies to campaign donors, but a new report out ahead of the debate tonight shows that this White House's crony capitalism has a foreign policy angle. Hillstone International won a coveted government contract in part because the company has, quote, the little brother of the vice president as a partner, unquote, as David Richter, president of Hillstone's parent company, explained to investors in a recent meeting reported on by Fox Business Today. Since November 2010, James Biden has been the executive vice president of Hill International's housing subsidiary, despite little, if any, documented work history in residential construction, unquote, Fox explained. Quote, and if the company's projections are accurate, both Hill and Biden are on the verge of a huge payday. Beneficiaries, some analysts believe, of James Biden's connections to the Obama administration to his older brother, unquote. In the Fox report, a former Hill executive who worked on getting the project had this to say about Hillstone, quote, you have to realize that these guys are relentless businessmen and they have the right connections, unquote. So this is a little bit about Romney trying to show like he's, he's really going after the stories, right? But anyway, here's another post here from Hill International. Looks like off their website, June 2nd, 2011. Hill International receives contracts worth $1.5 billion to manage and supply major housing development in Iraq. Hill International, New York Stock Exchange symbol HIL, the global leader in managing construction risk, announced today it has received a contract from Track Development Group, a South Korean real estate developer, to provide project management and construction management services in connection with a major housing development in Iraq. In addition, Hill's majority-owned subsidiary, Hillstone International, LLC, has received a contract to supply building structural systems to Track for the development. Total development includes construction of 500,000 housing units plus related infrastructure, which was granted to Track by the National Investment Commission of Iraq. Total development is estimated to cost approximately $35 billion. The Hill and Hillstone contracts are each for the first phase of the development only, which includes construction of the first 100,000 housing units plus related infrastructure. So you can see that's the huge contract right there, and it was worth $200 million, into Hillstone of approximately $1.3 billion. These two contracts nearly triple Hill's backlog from less than $800 million to approximately $2.3 billion. So here's a small company, and then boom, they got this huge contract. Look, allegedly with the help of Joe Biden's brother, and then all of a sudden they are taken off. And I looked up this company's stock symbol, and today they're trading at $1.46. So you could see whatever promise this company once had, they never lived up to it. They've basically fallen all the way down into the almost being a penny stock now. So, let's look at a 5-year chart. So here, looks like June 18, they were up at $5.90. not doing too great. So never reached the promise that they were going to have. Here's an interview with Peter Schweizer with some more information about Joe Biden's brother. He was on Hannity. Let's take a look at this.
All right, we have major breaking new developments exposing corruption surrounding quid pro quo Joe and his family. Zero experience Hunter being paid millions. It is only the tip of the iceberg. Now, a brand new book out today by Peter Schweizer called Profiles in Corruption. And it goes on to say abuse of power by America's progressive elite sheds more light on how the Biden family, Joe in particular, and those around him appear to have used all that power inside of Washington and the swamp to get family sweetheart deals with no experience for years, including brand new information about the shady dealings of zero experience Hunter. But first, we start with Joe's younger brother. His name's James Biden. His commercial ventures conveniently flourished during the same exact time his brother was vice president. And as Peter Schweizer lays out, just days after a family friend visited the Obama-Biden White House in 2010, the same friend who was the head of a construction company called Hillstone hired James Biden as its executive vice president, despite him apparently having little to no experience in the field. Now, in the months to come, Hillstone will receive a series of lucrative government contracts, and the family perks didn't stop there. Joe's other brother, that would be Frank Biden, also appeared to use his family's political capital. He could cash in, because as Joe Biden became Obama's point man in Latin America and the Caribbean around 2009, Joe took what was considered a rare and symbolic visit to Costa Rica. Well, wouldn't you know it, shortly after, Frank Biden inked a big development deal to build a resort in the country, despite having, apparently, little experience in this type of development. All right, here to explain it more, author. This book is a bombshell. It also gets into issues involving Bernie Sanders, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, and others. Profiles in corruption, abuse of power by America's progressive elite. Peter Schweizer. All right. I want you to, this now is not a game. This is now an enterprise. If it was the Hannity team, what company would ever pay anybody millions of dollars with zero experience? Can you name, why would any company do that, Peter? Do you know any company that would do that?
No, only companies or entities that are interested in influencing the federal government or having access to the highest levels of government. There's no coincidence, Sean, that all the deals that you talked about, whether it's Hunter, whether it's James, whether it's Frank, all of them occur when? During this 8-year period when Joe Biden is vice president of the United States. He'd been a prominent senator before that, but the ship really came in as far as these financial deals when he was vice president, because all of these entities either wanted something from him or they wanted to please the vice president of the United States, and the Biden family got rich as a result.
Okay, let's go through the specifics of this. How much money are we talking about? Did they ever lose money on these deals, or did they make a ton of money? And when you say no experience, are you saying the brothers had no experience or little experience?
Yeah, I mean, let's take the Iraq contracts for housing construction. You know, we don't know how much money was made by James Biden in that case, because he doesn't have to disclose. But here's what we know. This Hillstone International company was set up. There was a meeting in the White House on November 4th, 2010. The only time the CEO of this company ever visited the White House, went to Joe Biden's office. Literally 3 weeks later, James Biden is appointed vice president of that company. And then about 3 to 6 months later, they get this contract to build 100,000 homes in Iraq. Now, if you look at the bio that the company, Hillstone International, listed for James Biden, it didn't mention anything about construction experience. It said he knew his way around the corridors of power. He had political contact. It made note of the fact that his brother was vice president of the United States. So it's very, very clear why he was hired. It was hired, I think, in part to secure these contracts and also to run interference if there were political pressures that were brought to bear.
So is it fair to say that everybody around the Joe Biden was using his influence and his power to get deals that no other American would ever be able to get on their own. And I wanted to get your theory. Why is it when Joe says you're not getting the billion? You're not, unless you fire the prosecutor, who, of course, was investigating Zero Experience Hunter paid millions. The media won't touch it. They actually just say, no, in one voice, in unison, oh, no real credible person has ever suggested anything. That is a lie, because everybody I know laughs when they say that.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, to your first question, Sean, we call them the Biden Five. There are 5 Biden family members who cashed in while he was vice president. You've got Hunter, you've got his daughter Ashley, through her husband and a business that he literally set up basically in the Oval Office with Joe Biden's help. You've got James, you've got Frank, and then you've got his sister Valerie. All of them benefited from the political power and influence of Joe Biden, and they cashed in during this period.
When we come back, thank you, Peter. See you tomorrow. Rush Limbaugh explaining why the Democrats look so...
So you could see that this isn't just one person. This is multiple people in his family have been accused of this. It's not something that just happened. So back in 1988, Joe Biden had surgery to correct an aneurysm that was supplying blood to his brain, and there was a lot of conspiracy theories out around this. Some people said he actually died in that, and that operation and was replaced with some kind of robotoid clone. Some people are saying that now because he doesn't look the same. His nose is different. Certain parts of his face don't look quite the same. His eyes are dark. In some of these news, shots of him, you can see his eyes are dark and he has light-colored eyes. So there was an accusation, an allegation came out that he possibly was wearing during the debate with Trump some kind of an eyepiece, like on a contact lens, the text could be put on that was telling him what to say. So again, that's an allegation that hasn't been proven yet. But you could see that something doesn't look quite right about him to me. Surgeons on Friday slipped a tiny metal clip around the aneurysm, which is a sac formed at a weak spot on the artery wall. Danger is that if untreated, the sac could burst. So, the question to me has always been, is Biden going to be able to pass an actual normal physical from a doctor? In other words, to be president, you have to go through a full physical. You have to be proven that you can, you're in perfect health or in health, that you don't have any kind of, that you don't have any kind of impairment of any kind. So that's basically what they're trying to do right now. They're, sorry for the noise, we've got a lot of construction going on here in New York City. So, Biden is the damaged goods. He's damaged in the sense that, we're not sure about his actual fitness for office, and he also has a huge problem with, his family. There's all these allegations out there. There's all these things that have gone down. And so there's one last thing of, there was also an allegation with Joe that he lied about the car accident, that actually the accident was his wife's fault, and that, there was that allegation. So you can look into all these things. There's a lot of information out there about Joe. He had to basically stop his second attempt for the presidency because of the plagiarism issue. It came out, and it also came out that he lied about his his school career. He made up things about it that were untrue. So that's my Joe Biden deep dig. There's way more down the rabbit hole you could go. There's been other allegations against Joe over the years, but you could see that this family has made a career out of making quite a bit of money for themselves playing off of Joe's name. And the other thing that's interesting is that you notice that right after his wife passes away and his daughter, he wins his Senate race. And, one of the allegations of the Illuminati was that powerful people have to give up something to get that power. You see certain stars, and they lose a son, they lose the mother, they lose somebody, and then all of a sudden they're even more famous, or they're on the way up their rise to fame. So, you know, that was an allegation of the Illuminati that, you know, if you're in that system, you have to give up something. And there's many, many stars you can look up in their bios that they've either lost a son, they've lost somebody, and there's many instances of that. So anyway, that's the end of my Joey Biden deep dig for now, and maybe we'll do a second deep dig later. Hope you guys are well, and peace.